Hello, Earth Angels, both here live and on the replay. We've also got an Instagram live going here. Welcome to the live recording of episode 50 of the Devotional Drip, or welcome on the replay. We are so excited to be here with you. Today's episode is called Be the Bonfire and Anchor Your Light. So we're going to work through 7 prompts connected to our 7 main chakras to support us in giving ourselves a light bath from root to crown. At the time this is being recorded, we were just birthed through the big, spacious womb and birth canal of the winter solstice into this divine descent into the darkness of winter here in the Northern Hemisphere. And wherever you are in the world, the solstices really bring about a threshold of transformation. At the time this is being recorded, we are also exiting Sagittarius season, and we have officially landed in Capricorn season. And Capricorn is an earth sign. It's a cardinal sign. And my son is in Capricorn, so I've got quite a few Capricorn codes. And it's here to really help us take the data of what we receive from Sagittarius season. So if Sagittarius is the archer stretching that bow and arrow back and gazing upon where they want to focus and direct their energy, Capricorn is then the earth energy that grounds that fire so that you can take aligned action around that which has become perhaps abundantly clear. And I think there's also maybe that texture about with Mercury retrograde. I personally think Mercury retrograde is a blessing because it brings us back to maybe some things that we missed, not just the things that are, hard and challenging and here to make us uncomfortable, but also the blessings and the manifestations that we may have forgotten to just slurp up and claim for ourselves on the way. So may you utilize this Capricorn season, this Mercury retrograde, and the sacredness of this winter season to charge in your light. I've been saying in the membership, we're going to be like these little seeds gestating in the soil, getting all charged up with our light so that come spring, we feel restored and ready to emerge. Something that we're going to have a huge focus on in the Blood, Bone, and Honey Pot membership in 2024 is also seasonal self-care and seasonal living, and how that can also support us in divesting from the rhythms and the programs of capitalism that make us think and feel that we are constantly behind and somehow need to be moving in a different way. In 2024, we are ceasing the self-gaslighting and we are moving at our own pace. I mean, that's what we've been doing here in this space for years. That's sort of like the pillar of our work. It's claiming our sovereignty over the way that we care for our bodies, our hearts, our minds, our souls, our spirits, and claiming agency over our days and our time and how we work and weave with time as its own medium and dimension of art, not this bully that's here to force us into a corner, because it's also an illusion, right? Which we'll talk a little bit about today, shaping time, working with these times. And I have quite a few cards here. So I want to get into our spread for this episode. So I'll go ahead and invite you to grab a journal, something to write with, a deck if you'd like to pull alongside me. I'm going to offer 7 prompts that you can work with and maybe pull a card or a couple of cards for each. Or maybe there's one question in particular that really sticks out to you that you want to work with. And I also know that people love to tune into the drip when they're doing their chores and tending to the temple. Maybe you're packing for a trip for the holy days or something like that. I was late hopping on YouTube because I was quite literally making bread and taking it out of the oven for a solstice party I'm going to later. So we're just all in that rhythm. So be where you need to be. If you're catching this on the replay and you have space, or maybe you're catching this live and you feel like you have space to spread out, get a blanket, make yourself a little self-care nest, light some incense, brew a cup of tea. Let's just hang out for the next hour and talk about our light and how badass it is and how we can work and wield it more into our daily life. And really something I feel like we've been focusing on in the membership and in all of the classes and workshops and even private mentorship containers and coaching containers and higher self readings I've been doing this year with people is this idea of like really being a fierce radical activist around our magic, around our belief in magic, our knowing from root to crown that it's real, and also knowing that even if there are parts of us we're still inviting on board to our own magic, we can quite literally imprint ourselves with the belief that it's real by the spiritual technology and mechanism of our faith. And our faith is also like a bonfire. What a cute little segue. Meant to be built over time. Our faith is actually built through the things that challenge us. It's built through those moments where, our human ego and mind and energy alone couldn't make it happen. So we had to surrender, which is one of our cards for today. So we had to surrender and trust a larger current that was going to carry us through. And inside of that, what happens? Our faith grows. Our faith in the universe, our faith that there is a divine, loving consciousness that is motivating all things. And anything that is not vibrating on the frequency of love has just forgotten the original source that it comes from. And that journey of remembering that we are also doing here in human form is also important, and not to be missed or bypassed, but just to be aware that it's a journey, that it's a mystery school, that planet Earth is a incredibly powerful mystery school, especially because of the way our ecology is so biodynamic and vast. And our bodies are so intricate and intelligent. I mean, what a classroom, right? So as we build our bonfires and anchor our lights, I invite you to get all the things because the channel's already open and hot. So we're going to go right into it. And I'll just do a little housekeeping at the top here to say that we are officially celebrating over a year in the Blood, Bone, and Honey Pot membership. We have some delicious masterclasses we've recorded this year that are waiting there for you in the Honey tier. Our Embodied Astrology masterclasses offered by our Coven astrologer, Megan Rising, have been so incredible. I think we did maybe our 7th last night or a couple of nights ago for the winter solstice. So there are 6 other masterclasses in there waiting for you if you're wanting to go into an astrology journey and portal over your winter season. And then we just recorded our 76th movement practice in the Sacred Movement Studio in the membership this morning. So join us for our live classes in 2024. We'll be hosting those weekly, and I'll announce the day and time for that soon. And then you can always join at your own time and pace on the replays. And then we also have our live Coven gatherings that I shared this morning on my Instagram stories. We're now going to refer to as the Coven Cauldron. This is where we get together once a month and exchange our codes and connect in real time. And I lead some practice, and we circle up and stir all of our spells in for our sovereignty and what it is that we're wanting to create and manifest and weave into being. And it's a good time. I mean, just to be around other witches and magical people who also believe in magic and are operating from that point in their consciousness, it's everything. We're not meant to be out there alone on the spiritual quest, doing this thing, figuring it all out by ourselves. We're meant to sit in the circle and exchange wisdom and exchange codes and get hot tips for from each other on the path. I can take a little elderberry sip here. I've got this like sexy, raspy congestion going on today. But I was like, we are doing episode 50, okay? We're putting on the black lace. We're going to act like we're smoke rising from the flames, and we're doing it. So thank you for being here. Okay, so that's a little bit about what's been going on in the membership. And then we also have our higher self meditations, and we'll go back to a weekly schedule of recording those in 2024 as well. There's something like 37 higher self meditations in that library at this point. And we call our library in the membership the Living Practice Library because it is just that. It is living, it is growing constantly. And maybe practices that were released even a year ago in the membership weren't feeling resonant at the time, but now you're wanting to tap back in. I just pointed to our restorative yoga series that I did for our 7 main chakra system around this time last year. That could be a beautiful thing to tap into this winter. The practices are timeless and they are there for you. So if you have any questions, feel free to reach out. I will link that in the description on YouTube if you're watching there. If you're on Instagram, you can find all the links in my bio. And I will also just say this one last business thing, which is that I'm offering some specials for the Holy Day season. I'm offering a 30-minute higher self reading for $55, a power hour coaching session for $111, and a 90-minute photo magic ritual that includes a consult for $333. You won't find those on my website, but I will link them below on YouTube, and then you can currently find them in my link tree on Instagram. There'll be the first couple of links in there, and you can go ahead and pick your date and book, and we can get you settled. And if you don't see a date that you're looking for, maybe it's your birthday or there's a certain day and time that works for your schedule and you don't see it, don't let that stop you from booking. Reach out, let me know. We'll work together to find a day and time that works for you. And those are also beautiful gifts. If you'd rather do a pre-recorded higher self reading instead of hopping on a Zoom or a FaceTime or a phone call, I can also do a pre-recorded reading that you could have sent to a beloved to deliver in their inbox to support them through the sacredness of this winter season or maybe at another point in 2024. So reach out, let me know. Those promos expire on December 31st. Okay. At 2:22, we're closing the business portal. We are opening the drip portal. So I've already pulled cards for each of these 7 prompts, and I've been working with these all week in my winter solstice rituals, preparing for this drip. So I'm going to read out the first prompt, and you're welcome to write this in your journal. If you're in the membership, you will find these prompts linked in all of the practices that I already sent out for the solstice in the description of those YouTube videos. So they are already written out for you. And in fact, I will also just go ahead and copy and paste these into our Discord right now because I can. And that gives me a moment to just flex on our private Discord, which is our own little um, sacred social media channel where I share, in addition to Patreon, all of the practices that are offered in the membership. So when you join, you'll get emails from Patreon, depending on what tier you sign up for. And then I do a double post on the Discord, and then we can like comment and talk. And there's places for people to share after they do practices, what comes through for them. I'll just like read out our little altars because I'm in here. We've got coven agreements, main altar updates, Discord navigation, general questions, devotional drip and meditation, higher self meditations, the sacred movement studio, the coven cauldron, embodied astrology, questions for the devotional drip. So if you're in the membership, you can always hop on and just type a question in there for our drip episodes, especially when we get rolling again at the top of 2024. We've got sacred sounds where I drop all of our playlists. There's like so many playlists in that altar. We've got practice prompts, practice pearls of wisdom. So little nuggets of wisdom that come through in our practice that we want to share with each other. Coven introductions for new people that join, photo memes and quotes. So fun. Glamour magic, kitchen magic, post-class shares, medicine making, book magic, social and website handles, film and TV magic, podcasts and YouTube recommendations, coven recommendations in general, prayer requests, dream decoding, creative feedback, and coven news. So that's our little universe that we've created together. The membership started in September of 2022, and we have just been putting it together since then. Um, so feel free to join us in our little corner of the internet. You can join the basics here in the membership starting at $5 a month and check out all of those higher self meditations. I said on my stories this morning, I think there's like 37 meditations in there. So you could essentially give yourself a higher self meditation. And these meditations are also like, I, as an energy practitioner, am guiding you in clearing your own energy and nurturing your subtle bodies. And like, it really is like its own like shamanic energy session. So you could do a meditation every day for the next 30 days, and that could bring you into the womb of your winter, if you will. Because guess what? All those little woodland creatures just, cuddling up in the trees, like they know what's up. They're like, it's time to rest. It's time to dream so that we can create and conjure and charge up our energy to emerge in the spring, ready to be in alignment with the rhythms of the earth. So more on seasonal self-care in the membership next year, but that could just be a fun little ritual that takes you through the end of your year. I'm going to go ahead and just paste these 7 prompts in the Discord. So if you are part of the membership, you'll find that in the practice prompts altar. The first prompt we are going to work with is I'm going to read it from here. Why do I need to anchor my light? Why do I need to anchor my light? So again, the title of this episode is Be the Bonfire and Anchor Your Light. So why? Like, why would we anchor our light? Why would we even care about that? What are we talking about? What does that mean? How could that benefit us? How could that serve us? The way it works on the drip is that I do a collective card reading in response to questions that I channel through or are submitted to me. This was a special one that I channeled for this drip, this moment of the season as we close the portal of 2023 and emerge into 2024. Excuse me. Our first prompt is, why do I need to anchor my light? So here's what came forward in the cards that I pulled. I also welcome you to be in your own wisdom and pull cards if that feels good for you. But this will officially begin our collective reading for all the earth angels and light workers here live and on the replay. Hi, hello. I love you. Oh, hi, Hannah. Hi, everyone. Hello, hello, hello. Beauties, beauties, beauties. Oh, Whitney, you're going to jump over to YouTube. Great. Welcome on YouTube. Hello on YouTube. Feel free to drop in the chat here on YouTube and let me know you're here. Let me know if something specific is resonating. Also, feel free to drop a question. Or if you have any intuitive downloads coming through in response to these prompts. Oh, hi, Claire. I owe you a love note. Okay. Fairies, remind me later. Send Claire a love note. Okay, so our first prompt, this is for the root chakra. Why do I need to anchor my light? So root chakra, first chakra, the element is earth. It is like our anchor down into Mama Earth that reminds us that we have a right to belong regardless. We don't need to earn our belonging. We don't need to prove our belonging. And to be grounded is just to make that conscious connection with the earth. And there's many ways we can ground, and the new age spirituality world has made grounding its whole own brand and business. But when it comes to this anchoring energy in the earth chakra, the root chakra connected to the earth, grounding can be as simple as feeling your legs underneath you. And something I love to say to my clients who I'm working with in a somatic space, put your brain in your feet. Let's just try that together. Can we just inhale into the body, letting the ribs swing open, letting the belly be spacious. Take a big breath. And then anchor on your exhale, dropping the weight of the body down, almost like the bones are magnets being drawn down to the Mother Earth, anchoring down. Just like a bonfire needs wood to claim, if we're going to direct and wield the power of our fire representing our power, our expression, our sovereignty, our audacity, our magic, our truth, that clarity, If we're going to let those flames rise up, then it's going to need earth to claim. So the more grounded we are, the more we can access our power from a rooted place. And then we can be in that energy exchange through our root system into the earth, in that conversation between our root chakra and Mother Earth. Always this conversation, like our legs and our feet and our pelvic floors are being psychically guided by this loving magnetic draw of Mama Earth. So that's what I'm talking about when I talk about the root chakra and anchoring. You might even feel a little dragon tail springing out of your sacrum at the base of your spine and letting that drop down. If you can in this moment, maybe you just feel your feet on the earth and take a breath into that. Drop your brain and your nervous system into your legs and your feet. And here we are. It can be that simple. It can be that playful too. Like, okay, my bones are magnets. They're drawing down. This makes sense. The earth has a magnetic pull. My body is electromagnetic and made up of all these energy channels and all this atomic information. I'm just going to like circuit in, plug in, and let it all go down, baby. And then something I also like to see out of that dragon tail sometimes, it's like its own little drainage tube where you can just send out what's not yours or what feels too heavy out of that dragon tail, down the legs, out of the feet, out of your roots into the earth. So the root chakra as its own filtration system, if you will, as our tether, as our connection. The root chakra starts to form when we are in the womb. So it's very connected to that umbilical consciousness and really slurping up what it is that we need. So why do I need to anchor my light was the prompt. And that again is for the root chakra. So the need energy is connected to the root because when we're in root chakra, we're in that element of needs. We're in the parenting of ourselves, the mothering of ourselves, the fathering of ourselves, making sure that our needs are met, because if they're not, our wants and our desires and all of that is going to really distend us out of our body or untether us from that root chakra. It's like when all of the manifestations and desires start to feel overwhelming and they're no longer excited, chances are we've unhooked from our tether. And there's a grounding and anchoring down. So for this collective, which is you, my darling, watching here, you would not be guided here randomly. Synchronicity is a spiritual law. Bless up. I didn't decide. Thank goddess. We don't want that. So why do I need to anchor my light? We are going through a passage. Not just in the threshold of this season, moving from the fall into the winter here in the Northern Hemisphere, or the spring into the summer in the Southern Hemisphere, but most folks here are resonating in the Northern Hemisphere, residing, I should say, but also resonating, shining our light out. And so in addition to this actual passageway between seasons, which is very liminal and dreamlike, again, take time to record your dreams and go inside and know that this is happening. And like we're all walking through this together, but there's something specific that we get by letting ourselves be on like that solemn journey of solitude as well, where we are entering the passageway and the cavern with only the light at the center of our heart and the consciousness of our higher self and source surrounding us and the pulse of Mother Gaia at our feet guiding us. Just like we were talking about the cultivation of our faith, like there's a spiritual technology in the devolve. And in the journey of the high priestess, in fact, death, devolution, letting go, surrender, going to the underworld is how the high priestess then integrates and realizes herself or themselves. So this passageway of death, of the sacred dark, of the womb of winter is our gift. Maybe it's the permission slip we've been waiting for all year. I mean, what a year. To get quiet, to be still, to go inside, to move at our own pace. Maybe there's been a trying not to do that, like just trying to keep up. And then we find ourselves in a Mercury retrograde at the end of this year. And it's like, whoa, like what happens when we feel like we don't, this colloquial phrase of, I don't have anything more to give. Like when we're tapped into that like exhaustion like almost like can go into a victim consciousness, right? Like a martyr consciousness, which is so real and alive, I think, for witches and light workers too, because we tend to like absorb and slurp up a lot. And then if we're not emptying and pouring that out, it builds resentment in the field. So at this time, it feels like there's even more of a need to just take up space in exactly what it is that you need to do for your peace, so that when you show up to be in relationship, you can navigate from that death card piece. Like the death card, the tower card in the major arcana, they're about bringing us peace, bringing us to a place of peace, delivering us. So in a death phobic culture, we embrace this passageway. And we need to anchor our light because we're going through this passageway. We need to be able to navigate from that light because there's going to be thorns. So we got to be mindful, be aware, not vigilant, not hyper vigilant, but resilient and resourced. How do we build resilience and resource in our nervous systems? Through the breath, through nourishing ourselves, through taking time every single day to receive our blessings, to ask for what it is that we need. There is not one day on this planet that I do not drop into some form of prayer and meditation to do a little energetic hygiene moment, offer up what's too heavy for my human to hold, and ask for direct divine intervention and multidimensional resource. And then because this is quite literally my job, I get to do that all day for an infinite amount of people in many different containers as a higher self-embodiment doula. And what I know from prayer, meditation, energy work, working in the quantum field being my profession and job for a decade at this point, and then just in my life before I stepped into it professionally, is that prayer is real. Like speaking into the quantum field, how disrespectful to the power of the multiverse to act like when we send something out, it's not received. What a state of self-denial we would have to be in around our own multidimensionality to think that somehow our prayers aren't heard. What a collapse around our worthiness that's pointing to. And how historic, because standing in our worthiness around this has not been safe. You do get questioned. You do get gaslit. During the Inquisition, there was over 300 years of people being burned for believing in magic. So let us not act confused when it's tender to reapproach a prayer meditation practice outside of the institution and religious industrial complex, we will say. As a little Southern belle who was raised in the Christian South, honey, I was my church's very own Mary Magdalene, which I'm actually making a lot of art about right now and very excited about. I think I'm going to talk a lot about that next year during election year. What do y'all think? Oh, hi. The card I chose is breathe. Yes, right? Like our breath is the anchor. What does our breath do? It creates coherence between our brains and our hearts. So when we breathe, our minds and our hearts and all of that information that is being exchanged comes into coherence. You know what's also getting soothed through that? Our guts and this line of connection between the gut and the brain, because the breath is also slowing down all of the chemical exchanges that are happening. So the vagus nerve, which is a huge part of our nervous system, running from our guts to our brains, can have space to recalibrate. You may have seen people like putting their faces in buckets of ice water. That's because it's toning the vagus nerve. We can also tone the vagus nerve through our breath. So we're helping our digestion. We're helping our heart-brain coherence on the physiological level. And then we're also supporting ourselves in our magical and alchemical practice so that we can direct our light where we want it to go as we navigate these thorny passageways and create space to receive our blessings, receive that water. Um, like, what if there is like a fountain of blessings waiting for you now? I keep feeling also the energy of harvest for our collective, especially people who I was working with this week in sessions. It just felt like everyone is like reaching this moment of like their full gestation, where it's like, oh, we are just like pregnant with our potential and really, really ready to like ride 2024 like it's a fucking bedazzled broomstick, you know? And that's why I'm showing up with the sniffles, because I was like, before I go into like family holy day portal, I gotta get on and talk to my coven and talk to my people. Oh, you are pure love. Just put a mirror, darling. Okay, the nose is a little intense right now. Pardon me. One moment. I didn't know that's why I was choosing a spinny chair for my desk. But I'm really thankful for it in this moment. Okay, little elderberry sip. Um, letting the fountain come in. Water too. Water for anchoring our light. We're about to get into that. So we need to anchor our light because we're moving through a passageway of death. Okay. That is the winter season. That is also this moment on planet Earth. A lot of my teachers over the last couple of years have been talking about us being at the beginning of birthing a golden age, and how this time has been prophesized about for centuries. And I think it's a really powerful meditation to just maybe consider that we chose to come here at this time to be a part of what's happening. Like maybe we're just the angels for the job. Maybe we have just enough of the right cocktail of divine mess to fuck it all up, you know? So in that process, we're anchoring our light because there's going to be thorns and we don't want to trip on the stones. We get to use our light. We get to be in that belonging, that claiming, that worthiness, that like I'm seeing like the perineum, like and like the vaginal canal like clamping down like on the earth and being like, I'm here. Or like, you know, the vaginal weightlifting. I've seen that on my reels before. Have you guys seen that? Like literally like lifting like coconuts up with a vagina. Like that's the level of like anchoring down and just like home that we're calling in as we are practicing being the bonfire. Okay, going on to our second prompt here for the sacral chakra. What do I need to know about the journey? What do I need to know about the journey? Okay, so we got the great severing, Mars energy, anger, conflict, and softening to love. So this is just affirming that like death, sort of like ascension, global genocide texture that we've been in, like just really casual, you know, nothing to shed tears and scream about absolutely ferally into the forest. So this is just an affirmation of, yeah, like this is what's up. There's a great severing, there's death. We're moving through this passage. It's dark. We need our light. So what do I need to know about the journey? You can also, in the midst of all of these caverns and all of these mountains, find the valleys of sweetness. And then we also have the seas of Mintaka right here. So we've got the great severing, and then surrender to the sweetness, Venus energy, pleasure, joy, and make love to life, and the seas of Mintaka, seeing potential and bringing unconsciousness to light. So this journey is about, in general, for all of us, bringing our unconsciousness to light. I think we could all agree with that, right? Like that is shadow work. We travel into the caverns of our shadows to reclaim the parts of ourselves that we either rejected, we're programmed to reject, or also we're just unconscious of. And that unconsciousness itself could go really, really far back in the lineage. So maybe you're someone in your lineage who's birthing forth this consciousness for the first time in a really long time, in terms of being in your magic, being in your power, expressing your sensuality, moving your hips, casting your spells, claiming agency over your relationship to the quantum field and your right to work with the laws of form and the universe on behalf of your highest good and the highest good of those you're here to serve and be in relationship with. And so it is. So as you're in this process, there is a surrender that is always going to support the severing. There is a making love to life and just this like, I'm getting this like unabashed, like wild embrace that is going to support you in not being intimidated by the angel and teacher of death, because it feels like we're going to continue to be in that process for a minute here on planet Earth. Like there's a lot to be undone. Um, the tower crumbles over time, and the star card follows the tower in the major arcana for a reason. And it's all about self-care. It's also about bringing unconsciousness to light. There's that water element. So we're asking, what do we need to know about the journey? We need to know that the passage has a texture of death. There's a great severing. And even in death, there is sweetness, there is love, there is potential. And even like the discomfort of like wiping the goo out of the eyes of like the newborn baby being birthed, like even though that might like bring forth a cry, right? Like as a metaphor for us seeing parts of ourselves, parts of the world, really realizing ourselves, having revelations in relationship around our trauma, around our healing, whatever it may be. Like as that's happening, even though it may be like, whoa, I got some crusties in my eyes and there's like a little bit of vulnerability and discomfort, it's still the answer of the prayer of our souls. Because what I'm hearing is so funny is your soul came here to rock. And now our channeled song for this episode is we will rock you on. That's gonna be our Be the Bonfire Anchor Your Light theme song. And like that, I think is the energy I'm really feeling. Yesterday in our live coven gathering, I was like seeing everyone who was sharing and talking as they were doing it, like almost like busting through this like this screen or this veil and like roaring forward like as a dragon, like just this big energy. And Capricorn season is also big. Like I feel like we don't like really talk about Capricorn enough. Maybe that's just my ego as Capricorn, but I'm like Capricorn is like a huge sign ruled by divine daddy Saturn. Like we all, and we'll talk more about this as we like trickle into Cap season, but like divine daddy Saturn, our own inner divine masculine, separate from gender, just like the principle of that like rooted, grounded consciousness. It doesn't let us get away with not being big. Like Capricorns are big and bougie. We take up space. We have our yes, we have our no, and we're really good in business because there's just that like Saturnian structure and organization. So there might be a little bit of that like ruthless energy in the universe right now with the Mercury retrograde churning. You're like, okay, Sarah, like I fucking feel the severing. Like you don't need to convince me anymore. What we really need to know is that we can surrender to the sweetness in the process. And that's really where I was going with the Capricorn thing. The Capricorn is the sea goat. So it's the goat that's climbing the hill and, you know, meeting all the challenges. But we've also got our little mermaid siren tail that has us swimming and navigating through the passages in the caves. Like maybe the route that you mapped out initially was working, but now you got to like change it up. Can you activate that mermaid tail and be fluid? So we need to anchor our light because we're going through this passage of death, birth, transformation. I feel like every single episode of the Devotional Drip was about that this year. So by the way, go back at least to the episodes since January 2023, because they were all really powerful this year. And I think there was like a sequence of like 6 episodes in a row where we specifically talked about metamorphosis and transformation and how to work with that energy. So definitely check that out. Also, I'm hearing that it is activism to lean into the sweetness, to know that the darkness is about revealing the unconsciousness and it needing to come forward, because if it doesn't come forward and it doesn't get illuminated, how does it change? How does it change? Change can happen in the darkness of the soil, in the container of our practice, and of course, like in privacy. But there's also like a witnessing that's a part of change, whether it's us just witnessing ourselves and really holding that witness, or being in that witness space together. So when we're in the meditation of anchoring our light, earthing and grounding our energy down so that our power can rise from this deeply integrated place, it's also about us not getting distracted. um I'm seeing those thorns in that thorn card being something that could invite us to like turn our head as we're getting pricked and almost getting lost in like what's coming at us. Joan of Arc has also been really present in a couple of readings this week. There's like a Joan of Arc level sobriety and severing. That card is also pointing to this, the great severing through the distraction that Capricorn season draws us into. And if you got to activate that little mermaid tail and swim around the cave so that you don't get, dragged over here or pulled under that water toe, then that's your higher self embodiment exercise for the season. How fun that we get to test our power. I, for a long time, had a lot of stories about not being capable. That came from my own trauma history, which I will not waste time sharing about on this episode. I've shared about it at length in many other episodes. But I really had this deep subconscious story that I wasn't capable. And whether it was like doing a plank in a practice, like a movement practice, or doing something hard, like having to in my idea hard, like having instructions on a sheet of paper and having to like follow through and figure it out. My story of not being capable was also really connected to a lot of dysregulation I was working through in my nervous system, that frantic nervous energy that will take over and have us in a collapsed state of consciousness where we think that we can't, when we can, because we are the I am. And that doesn't mean, without reservation and without asking for help, or without modifying, or without creating all of the conditions that we need in order to thrive. It just means putting ourselves in a feeling tone, in a state of consciousness where we're leaning more into the possibility of being able than not being capable. I just have a lot of personal experience around that subconscious program and how much of a collapse that can be. Okay, let's move on to our third question. Let's shine some light into the third chakra, the solar plexus. Our question is, how do I need to anchor my light? The third chakra is connected to the element of fire. So we are working with, we know why we need to anchor our light. We know what we need to know about the journey, sort of what's going on, what's the texture. Now, how can we do that? How can we do that in a practical way in our daily lives? Excuse me, elderberry break. Prayer is a technology. Prayer with certainty. Yes, Kate. How do I need to anchor my light? So we have a couple of cards here from our Cosmic Dancer deck. I'm going to start with the card that I actually pulled this morning on my stories. I was talking about utilizing the container of the winter season to really charge up and connect with your light, and then and slow down so that you can listen and get all of that cosmic information that wants to drip in. And then I literally pulled the slow down card. And this is a favorite in the Blood, Bone, and Honey Coven. We love this little person riding on this snail. And maybe this can just be all of us. This can be all of our visual that we're working with for the winter season. Just a cute little person riding on a snail towards our destination in our soul's timing, which is known as Kairos timing, versus the timing of the ego that is all wrapped up in a bunch of shit that we are constantly loving into liberation. So how can we anchor our light? We're going to slow down, because I don't know about you, but every fire I've ever built, I've really had to be mindful about which logs I'm collecting, how much kindling I need, not being wasteful around the kindling, really taking the time to create space for airflow. Like, what a metaphor for creating space for breath in our day, in our life, for knowing that ultimately the breath is the anchor to our light. The breath connects us to our body, and then the body anchors our light. And that is like our constant recipe that we're working with. And so when we slow down to take the time to connect to our breath, to build that fire, this could even point to, because we're in the third chakra here, breathing all of that yummy, nutritive breath right into the belly button on the inhale, and connecting to that umbilical cord of the belly button and the third chakra. And so when you're in your inhale, you can really receive through the belly and the belly button. And then on the exhale, you can draw the belly button towards the spine. And you'll notice that that containment and that drawing and that expansion is actually quite a workout for the dantian, if you will, the lower belly muscles. And the pelvic floor also really likes it too. So maybe you have a plane ride or a car ride, or you're sitting at your desk, or, there's just time and space you have to just breathe. Think about letting your belly button breathe, and then letting your asshole breathe. Let your vagina breathe. I don't want to get kicked off social media, but let your organs breathe. Like, send the breath down, create space at the base of the pelvic floor, and fill up that pelvic bowl. Like, you can think of your pelvis as a literal bowl being filled up with breath, with all of that resource. And then notice when you don't get triggered in the same way that you usually do, because you have a bunch of breath resourcing you as like this literal cushiness in your nervous system, where then you create this bardo, this space between the trigger and the reaction, where you can be more in your responsiveness. And I say this as someone who quite literally used to live in fight or flight constantly. I had the Chen Zero resilience, honey. I was like a reactive, like full body rash, like every other day. It was that kind of situation, which I've also talked about at length on other episodes, and we can go to at a later date. But the point is, our breath quite literally tones our nervous system. It connects us to our light. It's free. We can do it all the time. And we can also work with it to slow our minds down. And if you really extend your exhale longer than your inhale, like let's say you inhale for 4, and then you contain that breath for 7, and then you exhale for double the length of the inhale for 8. That extended exhale is going to slow down the heart, which is going to slow down the mind. And that's how you create space to be in a more sovereign relationship with your thoughts, because you are the one who has your thoughts. They don't have you. But sometimes it can certainly feel that way when they're getting a little intrusive. So we can use our breath to anchor our light. So how do I need to anchor my light? We need to slow down. We also need to clear the vessel. Breath is also a practice for purification. On every inhale, you receive new information and you receive light, and you can see the blood and the bones and all of you illuminating with light through your subtle bodies. And then on the exhale, you could drink that in and then drain the old energy out of that dragon tail at the base of the spine and send it down. That's a beautiful daily purification exercise. And we'll do that. We will do that. If I forget, we're going to close the drip like that, just so we have like a really yummy little portal. If I forget, let me know in the chat or send me a little message, and maybe we'll send it out in the newsletter. But I'm not going to forget. You know why? Because I'm going to anchor it. I'm going to anchor the light, and I'm going to write myself a big note. And with meditation. My little spell book here. It's full of so much writing. Okay. We'll put that there with all my tissues. Lovely. So glamorous. Okay. So we are slowing down. We're clearing the vessel. We're also communicating with spirit, and we're surrendering and trusting what we receive. Well, how do I know if I'm communicating with spirit, Sarah? How do I know if that's like a real channel coming through, or just like a voice in my head, or like, how do I know I'm not just imagining it? Whenever those voices come up, I like to say that imagination only became this thing that's like this, silly thing that children do because that type of consciousness is threatening. Imagination is innovative. It's directly connected to our third eye. So maybe you go into a space and you're in a meditation practice or a contemplative prayer practice, or you're doing journal channel writing in your journal, or you're moving your body, or you're pulling cards, and you really like feel like there's something coming through, but I'm just getting, for some people, like there's a questioning or almost like a bias that comes up to ask, like, is this real? Should I follow this? How do I know, like, how to discern what's coming through? um Again, the breath is the anchor, like, especially when I'm channeling psychic messages, if I'm not breathing, I'll quite literally, like, lose the tether and lose the thread. So if you're channel writing, if you're pulling cards, if you're moving, if you're making art, anything that you're doing, the center of today's transmission is, in order to be the bonfire and anchor our light, we need the breath, which is actually so beautiful, because for fire, we need air, right? We also need that anchored groundedness of the wood. So, like, thank you, Spirit, for this guidance. And like, the message always comes through. Like, I could use this moment for an example. Like, I'm on here, I've got all these cards, I've got all these things I'm trying to weave in to offer. I'm so passionate about this work. And I could get in my own way in terms of my channeling and my communication. And this has certainly happened to me before, where I start gaslighting myself around, what's coming through, or what I'm hearing, or, whatever it is. And I found that the medicine for that is surrendering and trusting. Like, that again builds that faith. It builds the intimacy with your own inner psychic voice and your own channel. What is any relationship in our life without the cultivation of intimacy over time through surrender and trust? If you don't have surrender and trust in your relationship, oh my gosh, like, I feel like relationships have so been on the altar this year, but especially the last couple of years. And um, letting go of, any, like, I'm hearing like any, like, impulse to micromanage. And know that there are also larger forces taking care of our relationships, and sometimes like, keeping our own, like, energy integrated to our spine and close to our own being. Then we can discern what is for us to share and what is for us to just know and move from the knowing of. And I really, really want to focus on this in the membership next year, in my content, in all of the work that we do. Like, really having this deeply intimate relationship with self, where you have your own inner private life and experience, which sounds so simple. But I think in an age of social media, where there's so much information coming at us and sharing, and the earth grid sped up, and it feels like it's moving way faster, and we're trying to be in this dance with time, like, really creating sacred, private, sensual, loving, nutritive, magical, ritual based space to connect with ourselves, not even in a circle with other people, not even with a practitioner, not even with a guide or a shaman or anything like that, not even with me, like, with you and your own being, to go into that deep, sacred, sovereign, quiet cave space, so that as you move through the passageways of your awakening, there's a familiarity with that inner dwelling I'm getting, inhabiting of your own body, like, taking up every inch and corner of your body with your consciousness, not the stories of other people, not the dreams of other people, not the ideas of other people, but you, all of you poured into you. Um, that's how we need to anchor our light. So again, we'll do our little meditation at the end. I want to, like, fill us up and rinse us out with light. We're going to go on to our fourth question for the heart chakra. Where is this showing up on my path? So I pulled a little sequence of cards for this from my Medicine Woman Oracle. Hold on, hold on. Oh, hello. Happy new season. Welcome. Thank you for being here. Okay, so fourth question, and I'll repeat the first ones just so we have a little orientation. Why do I need to anchor my light? What do I need to know about the journey? Where is this showing up on my path? Oh, wait, sorry. Why do I need to anchor my light? What do I need to know about the journey? How do I need to anchor my light? And then where is this showing up for me on my path? So I want to start with our winter card here. So especially if you're catching this at the time it's being recorded, we are in the winter season. And then I also pulled summer. So it felt like it was this nice little space holder for what wants to unfold for us over this next 6-month season, from solstice to solstice, if you will, darling. So from solstice to solstice, where is this showing up for me on my path? This is going to show up, this is so funny, in the circle of our life. So in our whole life, it's going to be really important to anchor our light. Can I just get a little affirmation in the comments if you've been feeling that this year? Like, where would we be without our ability to anchor our light and shine it and be magical and pull cards and be in our practice? So this is going to show up in our whole ass life. It's giving personal, it's giving professional, it's giving purpose work. And then specifically the realms it's going to show up in is the realm of our grounding card, affirming our need to anchor. So, this need to anchor our light and be the bonfire and shine it is showing up everywhere. Everywhere we need to be grounded. Everywhere we need to grid our light. I'm seeing people build altars at their desks at work and coming back in the new year and really sprucing up the space, or creating certain kinds of sacred space in your home so that landing in your daily practice is easy. Maybe spending some dream time over the next few weeks to pour over what you would like a weekly schedule to be moving into next year. If you don't work like that, what is a routine that feels like a ritual for you? Going back to the basics and the ABCs of self-care and how you want to work and dance and shape time. That also seems to be a theme of today, shaping time. Showing up in the circle of our life. It's showing up in the need to ground. And then I think these are so powerful and telling. It's also showing up in how we are being called to speak out, claim our personal power, and be in this transmission of self-knowledge, which also comes up in another card as well. The self-knowledge card says, dive into your depths where your truth resides. Personal power. I encourage you to be the master of your destiny. Speaking out, your voice is released. Express yourself frankly. So again, we've been in that kind of tearing through the veil, dragging self forward, fire, bonfire, fire's unapologetic. If it's hot and it's making its way towards you, you better step back or you're going to get burned. And that's sacred too. I'm hearing we talk about, I feel like we've talked about this a lot on the drip, but letting that niceness go in favor for true kindness. Setting a boundary does not have to be confrontational. It also doesn't have to be conflict. It can be an expression of light. It can literally be you drawing a circle of light around yourself and just asking for someone to take a step back, which isn't violent. It's just self-loving. And as a, if I'm going to use pathology, a recovering addict to codependency, what I have found in when I need to ask for that step back or when I need to set a boundary, what I have found in that, in the vulnerability, in the shakiness, in the building more of a tonality around that, there's a double blessing. I get blessed from the inside out, and then the other person who I'm communicating with also gets the blessing, because then we're not showing up inauthentically. We're showing up from our truth, which this card is pointing to, our personal power, this groundedness in our personal power. We're speaking out because we know ourselves, and we're not expecting other people to take care of us or take care of the space for us. We are taking care of ourselves, and then we're showing up in touch with the kind of care that we need. So if and when we need to ask for it, undeniably, we can. We got some comments rolling in. It really is in every aspect of our life in order to be the wise and well-heeled ancestor. I want to take work to the next level and scale, but there are blockages in our partnership, and I need to ask someone to take a step back, but I don't feel righteous in doing so. So you are on point. Yeah. Oh my gosh. I mean, in my like wifey and also like auntie of a village, and business owner, and oldest sibling consciousness, what's coming through for me around that is um yeah, that like the edging towards it, and like the way that we can together create boundaries too, like especially in our partnerships and in our close relationships, like boundaries also as permeable, because boundaries are a conversation, right? It's like a give and take from the field. If we're too fixed and staunched and like not rooting down or anchoring down, but clenching actually in fear, we don't leave space for maybe a boundary that would actually better serve us. I've certainly found that in my codependency healing journey, like, learning how to set boundaries and being in that dance over the last decade, I used to, I think, set boundaries in a way that were like, I like had that clenching texture. And now I just feel it as this like, oh, that's just my dragon tail dropping down. Boop, that's just my bonfire and my circle of light. But the dance to arrive there was messy, and I made all kinds of mistakes and still do. And like, I certainly am not the boundaries queen, honey. That is my lesson in this life, but I can just speak to it from compassion because I understand that it's not just as easy as like setting a boundary and asking for what we need. Like we have to be in this permeable dance. And so maybe like we can think of the water as like the consciousness of the boundary, and then the riverbank or the sand as the boundary. And it's like the water can move onto the sand. It can also pull it back in, and it can shift and it can change. And that our boundaries can be a conversation. Okay, so where is this showing up for me on my path in terms of sorry, I'm just noticing something else come up on the screen. I recently lost my job and shifts have been uncertain, and I can definitely feel this aching and trying and not getting dragged down by the unknown and stress. Being intentional. This trip is nourishing. Oh, I'm so glad, Natasha. Thank you for sharing this reading with us. Sending love to you all during this season. We're sending you so much love. Okay, so lots of uncertainty. New territory, right? We talked about this with kind of like the passageway, the severing, like growth through conflict, the need for faith, the need for boundaries to be a conversation, this portal of between now and the summer, this need to communicate with spirit and surrender and trust. And then we're getting that this is showing up for us on our path throughout the wheel of our life, across the altars of our life, in the need to ground, to nurture and listen to our intuition, even and especially when it triggers other people and their preconceived ideas of maybe how we should be moving or how it would best serve them, or if it would best serve them for us to turn down the dial on that intuition. I think witches have faced that for centuries. And then it's also showing up for us in the realm of our personal power being activated, our self-knowing, and our need to speak out. Your voice is released. Express yourself frankly. Another archetype that I've been studying in addition to the witch and the slut always is the bitch. And I'm going to do a lot of work with that, I think, in my burlesque pieces next year. But I just feel this like speaking out card, especially with this like tongue sticking out, like bringing me into that like bitchy energy. And like also letting ourselves reclaim that and know that like a female dog is called a bitch. And I have a female dog that's my familiar, and she's pretty much like the best creature on planet Earth. So we're not only reclaiming the witch and the slut, we're also reclaiming the bitch in 2024, because I think a lot of that programming keeps us from saying the shit frankly, from just being like, oh yeah, that sounds good, or oh no, sorry, I can't. Like just like keeping it fucking simple. We don't have time to drag it out. We have things to make, we have things to do. And it's also okay for people to feel uncomfortable about how we're taking up space in our purpose work, in our magic, and how we're here to shine. I feel like the bigness of my work is often confrontational for relationships in my life. And that's just been something that I have had to surrender and trust as a part of my path. And to, really like protect my own energy and know that in order to show up and do what I'm here to do, I need a lot of time to like retreat and go into that cave space. And like, if we've ever exchanged messages, unless you're like one of my clients and we're in a paid container, like outside of that, y'all, we treat it like it's the 1700s and I get back when I do. And sometimes it takes me an entire solstice to solstice, but trust when it comes through, it's going to be full of love and also my sovereignty. And so I don't really know why I'm sharing that. For whoever that's for, if you need some permission to just like not respond, do what you need to do, regardless of how people feel about it, and just kind of know and claim that sort of like being your own bestie energy, that's a valid fucking way to navigate your path. And that's going to show up on your path. That feels like the most important thing. You being your own bestie and guide and angelic like presence in your life is going to show up on your path. And that angel light and those dragon wings and that fire coming from your mouth might upset some people. And that's okay. They can just take a step back from the flame so they don't get burned. Even if we love them dearly, because it is an expression of our love to be like, you know what? Like, this is what I need to do for me. This is what's true for me. This is what's honest for me. This is what I feel. If I don't do this, I'm actually just going to build resentment. And then it's not going to be harmonious and peaceful anyways. So we either shove our voice down in what it is that we want and desire and need to start with, or at some point it effervesces, it comes forward. And I think that's also a lesson for all the earth angels at this time. Like, we can no longer get away with betraying ourselves, even though that's maybe what we started doing at one point to keep ourselves safe. And I'm also hearing out of the public eye in a way that you're meant to be. Like, I'm feeling that for a cohort of people right now who are like at that edge, right? Of like that next level of visibility. I'm certainly there myself. Like, where are we playing small to keep ourselves safe? Whether it be in those personal relationships or also in the way that, you know, when you show up in your visibility and you expand in your purpose work, you also expose yourself to more people, more feedback from the field. So in order to be able to like withstand that as the bonfire, you got to know your power. You got to keep it grounded. You got to stay centered and connected to the breath, because people will say all kinds of crazy shit and have all kinds of reasons why you shouldn't shine in your power. I also believe that all of those people are teachers that are divinely placed to invite us into our power, because that obstacle and that, you know, discomfort is also part of like the catalyzing energy that moves us. So then we can be thankful and maybe even extend some forgiveness towards people in our life who have or who currently are making it challenging. It doesn't mean that we have to like, you know, call those people and tell them about it on the phone, but I think it can also create space in our own inner orientation where it's like, oh, there's just like a little more space around that. I don't need to like make someone the villain. I can just let all these things be these divine obstacles that are inviting me into more of my personal power, that are inviting me to speak out, that are inviting me into knowing myself, into curiosity, into self-reflecting and asking questions. So that's where this need to anchor your light and be the fucking bonfire that you are, baby, is showing up. Who are you being called to be, and what parts of you are being illuminated at this time? Elderberry break. I hope you're drinking water too. So who are we being called to be? I've got my divine feminine oracle here. I love all these allies coming forward. Who am I being called to be, and what parts of me are being illuminated as I practice being the bonfire and anchoring my light? First, we've got Lalita, the goddess of play. She is the red goddess. Playfulness is a spiritual power, and laughter leads me back to light. Back to the light. Playfulness is a spiritual power, and laughter leads me back to the light. So, like, the cackle of the witch is like what I'm hearing, and like this energy of just like, ha 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 ha, like cackling over the crazy cauldron of your life. Isn't it so funny that all of these things are asking to happen at the same time? This world of form is just such a laugh. It's such a treat. It's so funny, darling. Like just a little bit of like lighthearted energy, right? Because then those moments of discomfort or someone wilding out or us not getting all of our shit done, like the amount of things that I wanted to get done today that just didn't happen, or even this week, like I know I'm not the only one feeling that. And maybe the medicine isn't in getting that shit done or showing up in this way that we think is perfect or is going to earn us love or whatever it is. This is the card actually for our throat chakra connected to our expression, or this set of cards for this question. And when we can just let it go and trust and surrender. Like, all right, maybe there's a different way that source wants me to show up in this. I'm just going to like let it have a little levity. Then that anchoring again doesn't feel like such a gripping. Like even if you in this moment release your jaw, release your eyeballs, release your shoulders away from your ears, unclench at the pelvic floor, relax your sits bones. And then breathe and notice on your exhale how you can really drop the soma, the body down, because you're not clenching so hard. So when you relax and you ease and you bring that playful energy in, it's going to feel easier to be grounded. It's like I'm hearing unbothered, like the energy of being unbothered. Or if you are bothered, how can you make it funny? How can you turn it into a joke? How can you use laughter and levity to bring you back to a lighter place within you? I'm hearing also, don't get into it. Don't get into it with people who have no intention of listening or being in a exchange of dialogue. Don't get into it with a monologuer. Don't get into it with someone who's got all this aggression and shit that they've been shoving down for the last 12 months. And then at the New Year's Eve party is like trying to talk to you about, politics or something. And then all of their rage and all of their shit's coming forward. It's not your job to educate them. Ask them to put $300 in your hand and you'll give them an hour of your time. But other than that, we're not doing it, Earth Angels. I can just feel a lot of practitioners are going to tune into this one, and like leaders, guides, coaches, like teachers, mamas, like people who hold space, empathetic people, sensitive people, energetically, spongy people. So just don't get into it. That's what I'm hearing in the field. Don't get into it. Make a joke. Let it go. Flip it. Use laughter as a part of your alchemy. And let that cash just be placed in your hand. Just like really seeing that visual strong. Okay, so we're being unbothered. That's who we are being called to be, and that's who's being illuminated within us. The unbothered, playful bitch. We love it. We love it. And then we also have the Dakini, the enlightened feminine. My gut instinct is wise beyond reason, and I trust my intuition to guide me. I'm seeing Ursula. Like I'm seeing Medusa. I'm seeing like snakes coming out of the head, Kali with the skulls. Like y'all know I love to go there regardless, but I really feel like that those goddesses are also teachers for this time when we're in the winter womb darkness, when maybe we're going to be around family or traveling or doing all this stuff where we really just need to be the enlightened feminine. You know what I mean? And just like we're redefining love as fierce and clear and honest and truthful, not pandering and spilling all over the place. We're redefining the enlightened feminine as a little bit feral and wild and playful and laughter and jokes. And of course, there's this nurturing element of the feminine. But what I'm sensing is maybe we can use that and this Cancer full moon that we're approaching next Tuesday to bring us into our own self-nurturing, our own self-mothering, if you will, and not feel like we need to pour that out for everyone around us. Maybe 3% of what you usually do is enough. And I'm just channeling right now. So I don't know who this is for, but maybe 3% of what you usually do is actually enough. Maybe you're just actually enough. Maybe you just being the bonfire and the light that you are, empty-handed, is actually just enough. So for whoever needs to hear that, and we're being called to illuminate that our gut instinct is wise beyond reason. We've already been called into our intuition. That gut instinct we talked about, toning the vagus nerve and that gut heart brain coherence through the breath. And then we also have Green Tara and Saraswati. Saraswati is the goddess of self-knowledge. So again, we see that theme showing up. I literally pulled the self-knowledge card from my Medicine Woman deck. So we are being illuminated. What is being illuminated for us is that we know ourselves. We know the essence of who we are. It is our divine right to let that essence flow through us effortlessly, regardless of, maybe how we are perceived. We are not here to be perceived. We are here to be experienced. So know yourself as that. Know yourself as an experience. Know yourself as not just this canvas that's here to be projected onto, or this person that's here to be like placed wherever you're best utilized. You and your agency as the bonfire get to be like, right here, right now is where I want to shine. This is what I'm feeling called to emanate. I am rooted. I'm not going anywhere for a while, and it's going to take some time for my embers to go out. And then Green Tara coming through. She's come through a couple times this week. And this card says, the Buddha of enlightened action. My soul informs my every step. I do what my heart compels me to do. And Green Tara also is our guide for checking in with whether we're moving from a consciousness of heaven and levity and possibility, or a consciousness of hell and spiraling down into the story that sucks our energy. So Green Tara says, in every moment and every thought, just ask yourself, am I in a heaven consciousness or am I in a hell consciousness right now? And then I'm also feeling like the way that sometimes we need to be brought into that spiral, that downward spiral in our consciousness, that like inner hellscape, so that we can resource our light from that space. Like sometimes we're brought into those places because Saraswati is going to meet us there and teach us something about ourselves. Again, we're not running from death. We're not scared of the thorns. We know that it's a part of it. We just know that in the midst of all of it, we get to be playful and light, and we get to be the enlightened feminine, and we get to set our boundaries, and we get to create space, and we get to know ourselves as we are revealing ourselves to ourselves. Question number 6 for the third eye. From my higher self perspective, how can I best feed, keep, and contain the fire of my power? So from this deck, we have, or from this question, we have the animal, my beautiful animal spirit deck. So we got eagle and hawk. And both of these medicine cards are about perspective. Like they literally are the third eye card, like seeing with like the vision of the hawk and the eagle, right? Like they can see the whole sky and they're flying and they're soaring and they're courageous in that. And when you see them in the sky, you're like, whoa, a hawk and an eagle. So this feels like it's pointing to your angelic nature. And then they can also narrow in and see that prey on the earth below, right? And go for it. So from my higher self perspective, how can I best feed, keep, and contain the fire of my power? These wings feel like they're pointing to that breath again, an affirmation around breath. And then it's so interesting that in talking about anchoring and grounding into our light and our power, we're getting these air element cards, these birds coming forward to show us that even when we take flight, even when we soar, even when we traverse new landscapes, we still stay tethered and connected, because that anchoring not only happens through the base of our spine and pours out our legs and our feet, but it also happens through the spine and extends through the crown of the head and extends out like these infinite intergalactic antennas into the multiverse, all the way back to the great cosmic womb of Source. So, from the perspective of our higher self is inviting us to feed, keep, and contain the fire of our power by really being mindful of our perspective. Again, we had Green Tara saying, is that thought, does it feel like heaven or does it feel like hell, baby? When you think that thought, do you feel expansiveness in your body or do you feel a collapse? Letting it be that simple. And then choosing another thought that creates expansiveness. I am hearing that the audio just got choppy. Let me know if that's still happening, Whitney. Thank you for letting me know. That's always so helpful. Blooming with your words over here in Switzerland. Oh, I'm so glad. Welcome, love. Okay, so we're feeding and keeping the container of our fire and power by also, like, again, with the air and the breath, like I'm thinking of a wood fire stove and like opening the flue and letting more air and breath in if you want to heat up the fire. So also maybe being in your discernment around that. How hot do you want the fire to get from this kind of overall perspective? Like when you zoom out and you see the greater picture and then you narrow in on the things asking for your attention, what level I'm getting of energy and power and fire is appropriate for what's in front of you. Discerning how to use your power and your energy. So really we could say, from my higher self perspective, how can I best feed, keep, and contain the fire of my power? Be discerning in your energy and in your perspective. What you are deciding is happening through your perspective, through your experience, is then informing how you're feeling and then how you're reacting or responding. So our perspective becomes so powerful. And maybe there's something in your life right now that you could just see from a perspective of the hawk, of the eagle, where you can see the whole picture, but also zoom in and notice like, okay, yes, and that's the thing that's real, that we're, going to hold with our talons. We don't have to like grip and control and force, because we're just the eagle. We're holding it in our talons. We're the hawk. We're just holding it in our talons. Or do hawks hold things in their mouths? I don't really know. But the sense is that we're holding, we're containing, we're not needing to grip, because it's so natural to just let that be a part of the expression of our power. Final question, my darlings. I am grounding and anchoring into my light so that I can receive, fill in the blank, and offer, fill in the blank. It is 3:33 on 12/22. I am grounding and anchoring into my light so that I can receive, fill in the blank, and offer, fill in the blank. So what I got for this, and I just love like how all of the cards end up weaving together in the end. I am grounding and anchoring into my light so that I can receive the medicine of, yes, this one came first. So I can receive the spirit of air and offer the medicine of unconditional love. Come on. I am grounding and anchoring into my light so that I can receive the spirit of air and offer unconditional love. So we didn't talk about this when we were at the heart chakra, but the heart chakra is governed by the element of air. So we are grounding into our light so that we can receive our heart medicine and then offer unconditional love. Even to people who fucking piss us off and trigger us, and at the grocery store and in the long ass line and when it's cold and in traffic and in every moment and at the gas station when you're stopping on your travels. Anchor your light, grid the light, pollinate the light, shine the light, because we also feel better for it. It is a double blessing. Being a light worker, shining your light, anchoring your light, sharing your light is a double blessing. You share it, and when you share it, you're also receiving it because it's anointing you as it's moving through you. And that's a great way to also just keep and contain the fire of your power. You don't have to go overboard. Be an alchemist. Decide. Be in your discernment. What feels good? How much light do I want to shine? But if you let that be the meditation, can you imagine how much brain space that would take up so that you don't get distracted and sort of dragged around by all these other things that actually don't really matter? I mean, I know for myself, I need that every damn day, which is why I do this work. So we are grounding and anchoring our light so that we can receive the spirit of air. A favorable wind is blowing into your life so that we can receive our blessings, so that we can receive what wants to pour through our heart and offer unconditional love. I remind you of the magic of love. You are blessed, and love as the double blessing. I did not forget about our little meditation. We're going to drop into that now to close today's episode of The Drip. Thank you so much for being here. We had such a nice little turnout for this episode 50. We've got 5 on YouTube and 5 here on Instagram Live right now for episode 50. So that's so perfect on 12/22. And we went into our final card pull at 3:33. So snaps for being just held within divine love, divine timing. Let's pull one more card to inspire our higher self meditation. And I'm just going to offer us here a little light bath, a little energetic clearing. Oh, celebrate growth and breakthroughs and honestly assess. So let's let this moment of our breath together be this moment of celebration. May it be nourishing for you. And then for it to also be a moment to just be in some contemplative prayer. Maybe there's something you're getting ready to move into for the rest of your day, and you could just use this moment to seal it in and drop it down and contain your light and power and be the bonfire. Hi, Elsie. Thank you for the love. I'm going to give myself one little elderberry. What if I was like, I'm actually drinking? Which I can't say because they would kick me off. I'm like, it's moon. LOL. It's not. It's elderberry syrup, but you wish. Maybe I will start drinking my moon blood in 2024. It's the next level. I have used it as makeup. One time Max came home and I literally had like used it as lipstick. And I was like, what do you think? He was like, I don't really know if that works, girl. It felt fun though. Okay. So finding a comfortable seat or laying your sweet bones down on the earth, if that feels supportive for you. Maybe calling in the energy of being a little woodland creature, surrendering into the medicine of winter. Closing your eyes, letting your eyes be soft. Letting the mouth be soft, letting the teeth be soft, letting the tongue be soft. Dropping the shoulders away from the ears, letting the heart be soft. Letting the spine be soft and fluid. Sensing down into the base of the spine and then following that down the legs and the feet. Letting the whole body be drawn towards Mother Earth. Inhaling and filling up with breath. Your exhale draws you down. Inhaling again, receiving the breath like water nourishing you. Exhale, letting the bones be drawn down, feeling this anchoring into your breath, into your body, into your connection with the earth. And then inhaling again, filling up, letting the breath swell and pulse and shine and radiate within the temple of your body, maybe even bringing in the visualization of light. And then exhaling and drinking in that breath, letting the bones get saturated with the visualization of light. Then you can bring your awareness to the bottoms of the feet. And on your next inhale, begin to inhale light up the feet through the ankles and the shins, the thighs, the base of the pelvic floor, the perineum, the base of the spine, the coccygeal plexus, this light moving up through the pelvis and the belly and the intestines, up into the heart and the throat, moving up into the third eye and the crown. And then on your next exhale, letting that light infinitely expand up all the way through the higher realms and dimensions and all the way back to the heart of source, extending your awareness out into the multiverse. You can see this big black cosmic womb space illuminated with infinite stars, golden light. Then I'm going to invite you to inhale into that golden light. And on your exhale, imagine that this golden light is dripping all the way down from the heart womb of source, pouring through your upper chakras, and then like honey melting into the crown, anointing the brain, softening the bones in the face, softening the jaw, washing and rinsing the heart, pouring out into the arms and the palms of the hands, taking another breath and letting each exhale saturate this light and bring it down into the lower chakras, moving through the rib cage and the belly, the solar plexus, the womb, the sacral chakra, the root chakra, at the perineum and the base of the spine. And then this light is moving all the way down the legs, over the calves, over the feet. And then I invite you to send this golden light down into the earth, this light spreading through the mycelium, sending this light out to planet Earth infinitely. And then continuing to send your awareness down to the heart of Mother Earth, really letting it plug into this diamond light at the core of Mother Earth. And then on your next inhale, I'm going to invite you to breathe up diamond light from the core of Mother Earth. This iridescent, sparkly rainbow diamond light moving up through the feet and the legs, through the pelvis, through the spine, through the heart, through the crown of the head, extending out, and then on the exhale, washing and rinsing you down, all 7 chakras getting rinsed with this diamond light. Little affirmation phone call saying the light is dripping in. The angels are here. And as this light is saturating you, if there's anything in this prayer space that you want to ask for, if there's anywhere you feel like you want to send this light and this breath, give yourself some space here to do just that. Only the prayers that we ask for can be answered. And like Kate introduced for us in the chat, there's this spiritual technology and prayer of certainty. Like when we pray for something and then end that prayer with, and so it is done. May it be so. There's that certainty, that faith, that trust, that spiritual maturity that we imbue into our prayers. We're not asking permission to manifest, to cast spells, to send prayers out. We're claiming our divine right to do so. It was always our birthright to do so. And as you send these prayers out, I invite you to connect to a light at the center of your heart. And with each breath, this light is going to grow brighter. And this light is going to surround you 3 feet, 6 feet, and 12 feet in all directions. You in an orb of light. And then I invite you to breathe and fill this container of your light and your auric field with any color that feels really nourishing for you today. And then see that light anchoring down. Like you are in this full channel portal of this light. You can simultaneously feel that light extending up and then out in all directions, just like your breath. 360 degrees in the breath, the rib cage swinging open in all directions, the heart expanding in all directions, you expanding in all directions. And then on your next exhale, I invite you to draw that light to your midline, to the center of the spine, and then really drop it down, seeing a column of light at the center of you. A dragon tail dripping from your spine, angel wings or fairy wings or dragon wings dripping down, really inviting those shoulders to drip away from the ears even more, and light at the center of the heart and the center of the brain guiding you. I'm also seeing a crown of candles illuminating the way ahead. And this gratitude from your ancestors for your willingness to heal your lineage. in this now moment through the healing that you're receiving, and also forwards and backwards and in all directions at once. You are so brave. All of us are so brave at this time. Like, these assignments and these tasks being put on our altar are not for the faint of heart. They are for the faithful of heart, the heart full of light and unconditional potential, unconditional knowing of our worthiness of being supported, and the unconditionality of the true nature of divine love. That we don't have to come to the altar ready or clean or prepared. We can just show up as we are in the ecstatic, sacred, spiritual mess of our fully human, fully divine experience, and ask for what we need. And in that asking, know that the prayer will be answered. It may just not look like what the ego thought it was going to look like, which is kind of the mystery of it all. Breathing into the mystery, letting it fill you, exhaling and letting go of the need to know. And it was such an honor to be with you on today's drip. If you are in the membership and want to work with these prompts as a spread for an oracle or a tarot pull, you can find this in the Discord and on Patreon. And I will also put a little link in the description of the YouTube video to our Patreon if you'd like to join us in 2024. I saw our Coven astrologer, Megan Rising, hopped on here. I'll just say again that we recorded a masterclass for the winter solstice earlier this week that is super nourishing. And we also offer medicine for the winter season at large, and how to really embrace the medicine and the invitation of winter, going more in depth with some specific practices in terms of things that we talked about today. And then Megan also offered us a bonus yoga nidra that I got to receive yesterday for the solstice. And as you can see, I've been navigating a little season change cold, and that was really, really nourishing. And then I also have a couple of new movement practices up. That one I did this morning, let me tell you what, it was like drain city. I literally had to pause the recording and like take a moment. So if you got some snot going on and you got to like clear the sacred snot, the recording that I offered today, it'll be called Communicate with Spirit. You'll find that in the library this weekend. That's a good one for congestion. Then we also have a movement practice for being the bonfire. We've got our live coven gathering that I'm now, like I said, calling the Coven Cauldron. So all kinds of goodies to tap into in the membership. And that is our spiritual and self-care hub where we do our practice together. I have a fun little last question coming through here in the comments that I would love to answer. What is this? Witchcraft, Wicca? So I have been training in spirituality and somatics for over a decade, and I also weave in some different training in the art world that I've also received into the work that I do, as well as my training in business and entrepreneurship and digital marketing and branding. I have a Master of Fine Arts in Experimental and Documentary Arts from Duke, where I had like a bunch of different thesis projects in all different mediums. I make films, I photograph, I do performance art. And then I also have my BFA in photo from Savannah College of Art and Design with a little minor in dance. And that is like a whole other realm of my being. So I've got like the whole kooky Miss Frizzle artist thing going on. And then I also have this training that I've been doing in yoga and spirituality and somatics and occult studies and feminism and witchcraft for the last decade. I don't specifically practice Wicca, but I would comfortably say that, yes, this is witchcraft. And the archetype of the witch and the very real identity of the witch is a term that has been used, to quote Kristen Corbett in her book, Witches, Sluts, Feminists, or Christian J. Soleil, excuse me. The witch is a term that's been simultaneously used, or witchcraft or witch as a term to describe. Witch as the term to describe the archetype, witchcraft as the term to describe the craft, have both been used to persecute and also as terms of personal liberation. People have slurped up the witch and taken on that identity as a way of self-expression and liberation and healing. But it's also important to point to the way that this term and this practice has also um, led to so much oppression and unnecessary death and genocide on planet Earth. So, what we are doing is witchcraft, but it is also somatic practice. Soma means body, so it's connected to the body. It's also a spiritual practice connected to many different lineages, including Tibetan Buddhism and yoga. I also grew up in the church, so I did have a very early orientation to religious studies, if you will. And so I pull on not only what I survived in that space that was really challenging and is so much of what motivates my work now, in terms of each of us having our own right to have our relationship with like a source presence outside of what anyone is telling us what to do or what is true and not true, including myself. But also, I was really in like a lot of spiritual texts from a young age. So that also informs my work. I've done a lot of study around mystical Judaism and the Kabbalah. I also have studied tarot and the Hermetic tree of life. So there are many different modalities and I should say systems that we work with in this space, and we could just sum it all up and say that it's witchcraft for sure. I also just completed, just for fun, I'll flex on it, my 500-hour trauma-informed yoga teacher and meditation teacher training with Nina B. Of Mind Body Centering Yoga and Centering Life. I've been studying with her since I started my grad school work at Duke in 2015. And at the time, I was really navigating a lot of autoimmune disruption and chronic pain and a lot of dysregulation in my nervous system and just really needing support. And so I found Nina's work at that time and have been studying with her since then. So a lot of yogic philosophy also comes into my work. And then I always say if I could go back to school, I would go to divinity school and I would become a feminist theologian, because I'm just so passionate about all of the sacred texts that have been intentionally hidden from us. And it's part of my fascination with Mary Magdalene. Like, why were her gospels taken out of the Bible at the Council of Nicaea? Because propaganda. And that's what we see happening to this day. I'm also incredibly neurodivergent and love to track a pattern. So that comes into my witchcraft work, and it also is a part of my psychic visioning. So I have a gift of being able to see people's chakras and subtle bodies. So when I was just guiding that meditation, there was sort of this like being, like avatar that came forward for me, and like to represent the collective of who I was channeling for. And then it's almost like the little Mickey Mouse bouncing ball. Like I'll almost be guided through like the sing along, like when it's like do on the screen. I'll be guided where to go and where to move the energy. So maybe we'll have one whole drip devoted to that, because the lineage of my work and what we breathe together here is like its whole own thing. But I pull from many directions, and I'm sure in this moment, I'm forgetting certain things. I've also studied herbalism and have a deep proclivity towards herbal medicine. And I was lucky enough to grow up around that. My mom and my grandma both practice herbalism, and I was just gifted that in my childhood. I was raised by witches. And so, yes, this is witchcraft that we do here. That was a fun little way to close this portal. You are so welcome. Winter solstice blessings to everyone here. So much love. Thank you for being here with me. I'm so excited to emerge into 2024 together. I've got a lot of fun things up this witch's sleeve, including... Well, you know what? I'm actually just going to keep it a secret. I'm not going to say it right now, but we'll be back mid-January with episode 51 of The Drip. I'm turning 31. Before that, I'm journeying down south. I'm going to Mexico with my college besties. Shout out to my friend Hannah, who was my college roommate all 4 years of our time at SCAD together. And Sarah Rosie Donahue, who lived in the apartment above us, and Hannah's sister Caroline, who was a senior when we were freshmen at SCAD. We are all going to Mexico, baby, for Hannah's 30th birthday. So lots of content to be shared from that. And then we'll be back at it in January. If you are in the Ithaca area, I am starting to teach a Saturday morning devotional dance coven class at Cherry Street Arts starting January 13th. I also have a performance at Burley Bingo Homer Center for the Arts with Bees Knees Burlesque Academy on January 10th. And January 9th is my 31st birthday. So it's going to be a fun little birthday performance. So I'll share more about that on the gram, in the newsletter. You know the deal, you know the tea. Don't forget about those Holy Day specials, 30-minute, $55 readings, power hour sessions for 111, and photo magic rituals for 333, to be booked anytime in 2023, but the promo expires 12/31. So if there's not a date on the calendar that you see that you want, let me know, send a message, reach out, we'll get you booked. And I am sending all of you so much love. I'm so glad you asked the question, love. And it's my pleasure to give an answer. I mean, the loquacious long answer is on me. They were like, I didn't expect such a long answer. But you sound like someone who knows a lot. Maybe it's because my South Node is in Gemini. We're forever moving towards that North Node in Sagittarius where we like let the words go and let it get a little wild. But I do love to be a word witch. Okay, I could stay here with you forever. I love you so much. We're going to sign off on YouTube first, then we'll sign off on Instagram. Many, many blessings, darlings. Thank you for joining episode 50 of The Drip. We did it. Share this with a friend. Like, comment, subscribe. Peace.